Senator Hutchison, is there information that you feel that either you have in the Senate, that they have in the House, or that the president has, to Karen Feinerman's point just a moment ago, that leads the president to offer such dire characterizations of the immediate future of the economy?
Well, I am of the opinion that I just heard that we should not rush a $1 trillion expenditure until we know that it will be stimulative, that the tax cuts will work, that it's the right thing to do, and that we have really been careful. $1 trillion. It's just mind-boggling that we are trying to rush this through in 1 week, basically. We started Monday. Here we are. It's Thursday.
So which reinforces my original question, which is there some disastrous piece of information that somebody has that we don't have that's leading to this request for a $1 trillion spending plan, or whatever you want to call it, in a week or two's time?
We are all very concerned about unemployment and the situation with foreclosures. But remember, we have $1 trillion already out there. We have $700 billion that has been allocated for the financial markets, for mortgages, to try to shore up the financial institutions. And then we had a stimulus last year that was $600 a person, which didn't make much of a dent. So I think that we just need to stop here, make sure that what we do is going to reach the goal that we're trying for. And right now, I see $1 trillion. I see $10.6 trillion in debt, and I'm worried that our creditors are maybe not going to invest in America if we're not very, very careful.
Peter?
Senator, what's the most critical thing right now when you're looking at the proposal that you don't like, that's getting in front of the Republicans, that the Republicans are so much against? Is there one item specifically that you would want pulled out, and then all of a sudden the speed would start to get a little bit of speed?
I think it is the overall number and the amount that is being spent that is not stimulative. And it's not specific, but it is how we are allocating the resources. We should have infrastructure. We should have tax cuts that are targeted toward making people spend and create jobs. We should have spending that creates jobs immediately. Military construction, roads and bridges, mass transit.
Here's a question for you. Guy Adami was just making the point that he thinks from the financial markets perspective right now, and from the perspective of financial market stability, what ends up happening out of your town and your community in the policy world with the banks is actually more important than what happens with the stimulus. Do you have any insight as to what we're going to see on Monday?
Well, I do agree that getting the banks to start lending is the biggest issue that we have. That would solve so many of the problems, because if you can't get loans to make payroll, that is not going to help our employment situation, and then it's certainly not going to help people who are trying to pay mortgages. So I think the financial situation should be the first place that we try to put a real target, put a strategy, make sure that we are doing what is necessary for the banks to lend.
And Senator, I agree with you, and I appreciate you coming on the show, but the president says how dire everything is, and if you listen to all the politicians come on saying how dire everything is, make the argument that why should banks lend? I know you want them to lend, but if things are as bad as you say they are, or the president says they are, why should the banks lend, frankly?
Well, because if we don't have a financial system that gets credit into the markets, we aren't going to have an economy. That's why.
I agree with that.
If we take the bad assets off, which has been one of the suggestions, so that the asset that the banks have the capital to lend, and there's no reason that they wouldn't if there is a credit-worthy borrower, and many of these small businesses are certainly credit-worthy. They've been credit-worthy if we just give them the vote of confidence to keep doing what they've been doing.
Karen?
Senator, quick question for you. I'm getting the sense that the good bank, bad bank strategy is maybe not what they're going with now, that it's some sort of insurance. And there was some question about mark-to-market, maybe there being a hiatus or some sort of review of mark-to-market. Can you tell us where things stand with those two things?
Yes, that is certainly the big issue. People are not sure how you would transfer bad assets and put a value on them. That's why it hasn't moved forward more quickly, I'm sure. But I think we need to figure that out, because I don't see how you can get the banks into a capital situation where they're comfortable lending if you don't get those bad assets off, and with a goal of working out the loans where there is a willing borrower in the bad ones.
Do you have any indication as to whether mark-to-market, changing to mark-to-model is in fact on the table, and whether in fact there is meaningful policy drift towards insurance and away from good bank, bad bank?
I don't know about moving toward insurance. That certainly is an option that has been considered. We have been talking about mark-to-market, doing away with the present rules in mark-to-market for several months now. I think it is an option on the table. It's one of the things that is mentioned most often that people are concerned we've got to change if we're going to have the system open up.
Make time for us to come back again soon. You make good conversation and you make good sense. Thank you, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison. Thank you
very much.